Joe Simpson and Simon Yates, two young, experienced climbers, set off to climb the previously unconquered west face of Siula Grande in the Peruvian Andes in 1985. They are joined by Richard Hawking, who supports them at base camp. The ascent starts well, with both climbers making good progress despite the challenging conditions. They face freezing temperatures, steep ice walls, and treacherous weather. After several days of arduous climbing, they reach the summit of Siula Grande. However, a storm sets in, making their descent more dangerous. They decide to descend via the more challenging but quicker North Ridge. During the descent, Joe falls and breaks his leg. This injury is catastrophic, as it makes climbing nearly impossible. Despite the dire situation, Simon decides to lower Joe down the mountain using a rope system 300 feet at a time. In a bid to lower Joe down a steep ice cliff, Simon unknowingly lowers him over the edge of a crevasse. Joe is left dangling in midair, unable to climb back up. Simon, unable to see or communicate with Joe, is forced to cut the rope to save himself, believing Joe is likely dead. Joe survives the fall, but is trapped in a deep crevasse. Despite his injuries and the excruciating pain, he manages to find a way out by lowering himself further into the crevasse and then climbing out through an ice tunnel. Joe begins an agonizing crawl back to base camp. With limited supplies and extreme physical pain, he drags himself across glaciers and rocky terrain. He uses sheer willpower and determination to keep moving, driven by the hope that Simon might still be at base camp. Meanwhile, Simon, believing Joe to be dead, returns to base camp. He is devastated and begins the process of mourning his friend. However, a miracle happens. Joe arrives at base camp just as Simon and Richard are preparing to leave. His arrival is a mixture of relief and disbelief for all of them. The book ends with Joe reflecting on the ordeal, the decisions made, and the thin line between life and death in the mountains. He acknowledges the crucial role of Simon's actions, even the decision to cut the rope, in his survival.